It's HPR, All Things Considered, and I'm Dave Lawrence, continuing the latest episode of our Off the Road interview series, found at hawaiipublicradio.org/offtheroad, where you can get links to subscribe to the podcast. And that includes part 1 with guitar legend Pat Metheny, back with a new album, Side-Eye NYC, a live collection of new tunes and reworked classics. We're listening to it now, as we conclude 2 days with Pat Metheny in a conversation recorded at his home in upstate New York for Off the Road. Give a little explanation for Side-Eye NYC and what your vision was when you came up with this hand-picked cast of characters and really a project name, too.
Yeah, I got maybe a little bit too good over the years at sort of coming up with designated areas for things. Like this was the Pat Metheny group, and this is the Pat Metheny trio, and this is the, special projects that, for me, it's kind of all one thing. It's one big, long story from the beginning to the end. And it's, like these different chapters, like you said, with different cast of characters along the way. And this time, I kind of wanted to build it from the ground up with the idea that it's going to change, that there's going to be maybe different incarnations of it with different guys coming and going. And the actual recording, like some other records that I've had, yeah, I know it's a live record, but it's more like it just happens to be live.
Right.
It's not like, okay, we're going to make a live record. Because a lot of times when people make live records, it's like, the hits and so forth. In this case, it's, at least half new music. I've had a couple other records like that.
Was it all recorded at one gig, Pat? What's up with the recording?
Yeah, we recorded at a place in New York City. It's called Sony Hall. It's not used that often as a venue. It's kind of the basement of a hotel, kind of right in Midtown. It's like 2 or 3 floors below ground.
Wow.
And it looks like it has not changed since about 1937. I mean, it's really quite a place. We did record a couple nights, and I picked, the better versions.
And some of the playing on here, so rocking too. I mean, you've done so many different things with your sound through the years, but I was listening to the track Lodger. It has a climactic, distorted guitar solo. What are some of the rock guitarists who have influenced you, or that when you're playing something like that you have drawn inspiration from?
Being a guitar player, I have to admit, I did seriously avoid distorted type stuff in the post Mahavishnu era because it was so everywhere. It was so overdone to me, and nobody ever did it as good as John anyway. So as much as I did kind of avoid it, yeah, I always dug Jeff Beck, and I always thought Jeff Beck was the cat. And of course, Hendrix too. Those were the 2 guys that always stood out to me because they both seemed to know how to play the melody.
We just had John on. John McLaughlin was just on not that long ago on the show. He's been our guest a couple times on this Off the Road series. Always incredible to talk to him.
Love him.
I know you do. And I actually mentioned you to him because when we had previously talked at the Blue Note, I had asked you to say, what you've said before. John is, just to clarify, you would call John, if not the greatest, one of the very greatest guitarists of all time?
Absolutely. In terms of playing the instrument, getting around the instrument, man, he broke it wide open. There had never been anything like that before.
When he was on, he talked about, which I had never heard him talk about, and I don't know that I've heard you talk about. We were talking about some of the folks that we lost, and we did not lose him to COVID, but Eddie Van Halen. John talked about him for a while. Had you ever met Eddie, and what would you say about his playing?
Yeah, I got to hear him warm up one night, which was really something.
Tell the story.
So we were on the same label, actually. I was on ECM, but it was distributed by Warner's at that time. When you're on the same label and you see a lot of the same record company people, you have the possibility of going backstage and all that kind of stuff, especially then, because they were like really, really famous, right? And I was a fan of his right away because he basically took the Alan Holdsworth thing to kind of the next slightly more digestible space, heavily distorted, which allows you to get to some stuff, using hammer-ons, and in his case, the other hand and so forth. And Alan was doing that in a very particular way, in the early 70s. Eddie kind of took that to this other place, and then of course had this amazing presence as a person and as a performer that kind of allowed him to sell it in ways that Alan never in his wildest dreams could have, you know. But yeah, I heard him warming up. It sounded really a lot like Alan in the warm up, and it was pretty amazing. He had a lot of people, if they have an amp at all in their dressing room, you know, it's a little thing. He had like 2 stacks of Marshalls in his like little dressing room at the Milwaukee, where the Milwaukee Bucks played. We were playing the next night at the Pabst Theater, which is a smaller theater. And so, you know, we went like, let's go hear Van Halen. Yeah, it was incredible. For sure, he didn't have a clue who I was.
What year was this?
This would have been like 83, maybe.
Oh, 82. Wow. So the original band with David Lee Roth and everything.
Yeah, and not only that, we were all staying in the same hotel. And I mean, I got to see up close the thing, you know, of like hundreds of girls, you know, outside, and David Lee Roth kind of, you know, holding court in the bar. And I mean, it was like, wow, this is like a whole other thing here.
Wow. And you ended up in his dressing room watching him rehearse.
Yeah. It was sort of like probably the record company guy said, hey, there's this guy, you know, your guys are label mates and he'd like to meet you. And he was super nice. He was totally cool. He was doing his thing, warming up, and it was killing. I mean, actually, what he played warming up was way hipper than anything he played on the bandstand. You know, it was really, it was when I say the Alan Holdsworth thing, by that I mean it was like beyond just playing on the, you know, kind of a pentatonic blues thing. It was like, you know, very chromatic and really, really hip.
That's funny you said all that about Alan, because that's the same thing, John. I mean, it's amazing the thought processes of you two.
I'll tell you something about John, too. He came to one of my gigs. I didn't know John that well. I mean, I heard the Mahavishnu Orchestra in 72 when they were like just coming along, and it was unbelievable. It was, you know, all the stuff that everybody ever says about hearing that band live. I was able to experience that. Of course, always held him in high esteem. And then he came when my band was playing in Nice, and he came and he was like there for the whole gig. I could see him like in the second row. He got it. And we had a great discussion afterwards. And, you know, my guy is Wes Montgomery. I mean, it's like 1,000 times more than anybody else. And most people don't notice that. And John came up to me and he said, Wes Montgomery. And I was like, finally, somebody, you know, noticed it, you know. And we've had great encounters over the years at various things where we've gotten to hang out.
And you guys never played, though, huh?
We kind of, I mean, there was this thing at, you know, the Obama White House where they had a bunch of us come and play. At the very end, everybody was on stage playing Imagine with Sting singing, and me and John were standing next to each other, and you know, it was sort of like everybody got one fill or something like that. But in terms of playing, no, we never played together.
What an interesting thing, huh? I mean, that really says a lot. And that's your only time that you ever stood next to him.
The best part of that, I mean, that was a pretty great night, especially considering what happened to the country after that. You know, that there was, you know, Herbie Hancock was in the White House, you know. I mean,
right.
But there was a great picture that comes from that where John and I are standing right next to each other, and you know, I'll always cherish that. Some
great memories and storytelling, all as we talked about Side Eye NYC. It's the new one from Pat Metheny, an adventurous tour. Our fingers are crossed for you, my brother. Hopefully, if anything, like you said, we're just kind of like day by day adjusting to whatever might happen. I hope someday you'll be able to come back here. I hope some national acts ever return to Honolulu. Man, we're in such a spot with this thing. We were just about to start having national bands come back, and then all of a sudden this thing just exploded again. So
yeah. Well, we'll get there, you know, and I tell that to the young cats too. This will be in the rearview mirror at some point, you know, and it's like we just got to hang in there.
I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so. Did you have fun today? Was this okay?
Oh, I did. Thank you so much for inviting me, man.
High fives and socially distanced hugs and all that, and rooting on success, and hopefully we'll get to see you again soon. Stay safe, my brother.
I hope so too. Great talking to you.